¿Cómo le va? Qué gusto. Gracias por acompañarnos en Justicia Electoral a la Semana, un programa del Tribunal Electoral del Poder Judicial de la Federación. En esta oportunidad tenemos la suerte de que nos acompañe, el honor que nos acompañe el juez de la Corte Constitucional de Bulgaria, que está con nosotros en un evento internacional, y vamos a hablar precisamente de esos estándares que emite la Comisión de Venecia. Y yo quiero darle la más cordial bienvenida. Muchísimas gracias, juez Philip Dimitrov, por acompañarnos. Thank you very much to be with us in this program. I would like to talk at the first place why opinions of the Venice Commission are important for Latin America, please.
Well, on the one hand, all democratic countries in the world share a large body of common ideas and principles, etc. So, conceptually, the Venice Commission, which started from the Council of Europe and Latin America, very close. On the other hand, every human achievement is imperfect. So, when we all are trying to implement these principles, which are worded in different ways in our constitutions, but basically there are a lot of common elements in them. We naturally face some troubles. Troubles just occur. And the opinions of the Venice Commission are usually done because countries or institutions have asked for some kind of help, advice, how to deal with some kind of problem. Knowing about the problems is very helpful because we all gradually manage to make more precise our understanding about the dangers that may occur when you're trying to implement a certain principle. And at the very same time, with the work on these issues, we practically try to find common grounds, and because the Commission is an advisory body, nothing that we say or write is binding.
Okay.
So usually our opinions go like, it will be probably better to, or the good practices show that this and that has happened. It does not go like, do this or do that.
Okay.
And for this reason, it is very important to have more input on the one hand, so more countries bringing the problems in, and this helps spread it on a larger scale so that all of us could benefit from the experiences of the others.
So let me ask you another question. How Venice Commission analyzes the quality of democracy in a country, in America Latina or in Europe? Is the same?
We do not do this.
Okay.
We don't kind of measure and make estimates, etc. We try to find the common grounds and on this basis, good practices. The experience shows that in most places something like this and that works and something like this and that doesn't. We also try to construe on the basis of this the general standards. It doesn't mean that they're engraved in stone. And all the lists of standards which the Venice Commission produce are usually addressed and rediscussed, and we have versions from 2017, then something has happened and we have managed to enlarge our scope or even correct something in 2020, etc. So this is all very dynamic and it is all very practical.
Okay.
In other words, we're not giving excellent or not so excellent marks. We're just trying to be helpful.
Okay. You said at the very beginning something about binding. Venice Commission opinions are binding for members?
No, they're not.
Or third countries?
Well, there are countries
Perhaps.
which take the opinion, study it very carefully sometimes, and as a result, they may take part of it and decide that under the particular circumstances, at this particular moment, it is not very wise to go that far. Or maybe find an equivalent of behavior, seeing where the problem sits, not necessarily taking what the Commission has said, but usually there is a bona fide desire to follow the same direction, because people who ask the Commission usually believe that the Commission will bona fide give them something good, some good advice. As I said, nothing binding. All
Nothing
of it
binding.
is purely advisable,
Okay.
advisory. And for this reason, it is usually sought in moments of trouble by different countries. I mean, very often we have questions for opinions that come from some Eastern European countries who still are developing the experience of democratic institutions, but only recently we had something from the Netherlands. We have been discussing issues which were posed by Spain. I mean, this is quite normal.
Okay, now talking about another thing, how is the Venice Commission facing the important challenge of the world today?
The important challenges of the world, you mean?
Yes.
Well, the Venice Commission is, by definition, I mean, the name of the Venice Commission is a Commission for Democracy Through Law.
Okay.
Which means that it is concentrated on these three main issues, which are democracy, rule of law, and human rights. The challenges are plenty. So, of course, we try to face them. We do not have the initiative of discussing global problems. We talk when we are asked by countries or institutions, and when on the basis of these opinions and questions, we try to produce something that is the intellectual result of these common efforts. So we don't initiate a position on any question. But evidently there are things in the world which challenge too much every human being and every institution, especially democratic institutions. So normally, from time to time, we react to such events, especially if they concern countries which are part of the Commission.
Okay, and do you think Europe is different today, and Venice Commission is working about that? I'm talking about the Ukraine war.
I see. Well, the Russian aggression in Ukraine has created normally a lot of tumult and concerns. It is a tragedy.
Yeah.
And it is terrible that this happens at this time, but it only shows that tyranny, aggression are something you cannot stop thinking of. And this is one of the proofs that democracy is being defended every single moment, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And naturally, the reaction of the Venice Commission was the normal reaction of any democratic institution. We were shocked by this form of action which was considered outlawed in the present world. Unfortunately, it happened. Of course, we were sensitive to the sufferings of the Ukrainian people. We have been in touch with the Ukrainian representative of the Commission who stayed home and probably fights for his country now. And of course, we think of this and pray for a solution which hopefully will come. On the other hand, the Venice Commission is not an entity that can take any practical measure on this for understandable reasons. I mean, if we have an opinion, I'm not sure that Mr. Putin will take it into account. Apart from the joke, which is tough to make jokes on these issues, it is really a big problem. Whether Europe will be the same, look, democracy has been challenged many a time. And the funny thing is that under the small challenges, it usually kind of gives in. But when the challenge is really big, democracy up to now has been ending in consolidation. So let us hope that Europe, which of course will have a lot of problems to face, and will have to revisit some of the issues it has been concerned with, will come out more consolidated by the end of the day.
Okay, we are going to close this first conversation, but I would like to know, very short answer, please. Democracies are in risk today with all this?
They are challenged. I very much hope the end will be consolidation of democracy.
Okay, thank you. We are going to back. Vamos a una pausa y regresamos a continuar hablando con el juez Dimitrov, que es juez de la Corte Constitucional de Bulgaria, y estamos hablando de todo lo que ha sucedido en este evento internacional del Tribunal Electoral y de la situación en Europa. Acompáñenos, por favor. Continuamos y estamos hablando con el juez constitucional de Bulgaria, Dimitrov, y nos está comentando, entre otras cosas, lo que sucedió en este evento internacional del Tribunal Electoral del Poder Judicial de la Federación. Judge Dimitrov, tell us about the experience in this court, in this electoral court of Mexico City last day, please.
Oh, it was a very interesting day of discussion and visiting different issues which are common. You know, after all, as I said, the principles and general idea on which our systems and electoral systems included are based are very common. But of course different countries have different traditions. They have made different choices in terms of practical approach to the issue. And it is no secret that in Latin America and in Mexico especially, there is a preference to a single body which deals with electoral problems, disputes. In most countries of Europe, it is the opposite. I mean, the approach to these problems which occur in election times and with respect to elections go to different institutions depending on the level, the gravity, etc. To make an example from Bulgaria, we have a Central Electoral Commission, which is a body separate, independent from the executive, and based on the results of the elections of the previous election. So they represent more or less fairly, with certain compensations, not to go into the details, the picture of the parliament, basically. This commission has subdivisions on the districts and localities. So there are local, district, and central electoral committees. And these committees deal with some immediate issues, especially on election day. And when it comes to registration, when disputes occur on the different levels, depending on what the law says, they are addressed by these committees in a proper way. There are other kind of issues which can go to the administrative court, and the administrative court is a court of appeal. And there are also issues which go to the constitutional court, like contestations for the election of president, for example. For this reason, our system is more kind of diverse.
Mm-hmm.
I don't dare say which one I like better.
It's better, okay.
I guess it depends a lot on traditions and on the way in which the electorate approaches the issue too. So, from what I have been hearing yesterday, I got the impression that your Tribunal Electoral is overburdened with work sometimes. After all, the work has to be done, whether it will put it on one body or distribute it on other bodies who will be doing some other work too, is a matter of choice.
Okay. But let me ask you something. You have analyzed the electoral justice system in our country. Have you pros and cons?
There are always pros and cons. I mean, there is no system in the world which is perfect.
Okay.
And having this in mind, first of all, there will always be problems which remain unsolved. There's some people who very much like to talk about constitutions like something which solves all the problems, and if you strictly follow it, everything is fine. Unfortunately, it is not the case. I mean, constitutions always have gaps. This is impossible to avoid. And this is why diligent efforts to find the ways to put things into order are to be done. In my country, there are some voices who, whenever there is a problem, they rush to change either the constitution or the laws, etc. In other words, they have the, in my view, wrong feeling that if you put properly the words in the text, then everything will be perfect. Of course, amendments and changes are something very natural in a democratic country, and this happens all the time. But on the other hand, trying to find the best way within an existing system and not to give it up immediately is a wise approach. Because, as I said, if you change something just to avoid a particular problem, there's no guarantee that you will not create another particular problem with this, and then you will have to get confused with the incessant changes. Constitutions usually have to be stable. Of course, they can be amended, and this is natural. But amending the Constitution every other day, like some of my colleagues in my country propose, is a little bit too much. Now we have a big dispute on this issue. And I get the impression that a good number of those who are rushing to change the Constitution immediately haven't read it thoroughly.
So, Judge, do you think we are so particular? Our electoral system is so particular? Different?
No.
Complicated?
Well, complicated is a characteristic of many electoral systems. I mean, to me, some things sound strange because I'm accustomed to another approach in my country. It does not necessarily mean that this is something exotic or so very strange. Evidently, there are some traditions in the region, in Latin America especially, which differ from some of the traditions in Europe. There are things which I have been discussing and considering a little bit surprising, not necessarily in Mexico, but we have had long discussions on the terms of offices. I hear that you have achieved, in my view, I may be wrong, but in my view, a reasonable change in this direction. I've always been on the opinion that a single term of office for members of Congress is dangerous.
Okay.
So I'm happy that you have reached this. I cannot talk about every element of your system.
Okay, thank you very much, Judge Dimitrov. I would like to change the theme right now. I would like to talk about the COVID-19 and the democracies. What do you think about, is sick the democracy?
Well, democracy, like everything in the world of humans, is not perfect. And of course, it is not, I mean, it is fit for normal developments, and when there is some abnormal event that takes place, of course it shakes it. It's natural. And at certain moments we see things which are not in complete compliance with what our idea of democratic standards is. The COVID was one of them. Under normal circumstances, we would have probably been very much concerned with some of the measures that have been taken, but when it comes to saving human lives, you always go a little further, and the point is to find the measure. You know, in all political systems in general, on all issues in general, it has been discussed what should be the relation between freedom and security. And this has always been a point of clash, because it is clear that more freedom brings more risks. This is normal, and security is about avoiding risks. Finding the measure is probably the most human and most difficult challenge in the world.
Okay, but do you think COVID-19 affects democracies all over the world, or just
it affected them to the extent that they have been shaken. This does not mean that COVID has changed them. In the long run, we'll see whether some habits that have been developed during the COVID crisis will last, A, and B, whether if they last, it will be a good practice for democracy or something we'll have to overcome. But this is in the long run. Naturally, when there is an immediate and imminent threat, you have to react.
Okay.
Pretty much like when they're bombing your city, you are obliged to go and hide yourself in the cellar, which is not the most desirable thing in a democracy.
We are ending our program, so I'm going to ask you something very important. Do you think there's a vaccine for the democracy? Talking about vaccines?
No.
Talking about the work of the Venice Commission?
No, this is what I was trying to say at the beginning. Defending democracy is 24 hours, 7 days a week work.
Okay.
You cannot put a vaccine, meaning that if you do this, there will be no challenges, there will be no stresses, there will be no risks. Risk is part of liberty, and liberty is the most essential thing about democracy.
Thank you very much, Judge Dimitrov, to be here with us. Bueno, nosotros vamos a despedir este programa. Thank you very much to be here with us. Vamos a despedir este programa y le agradecemos como siempre su presencia. Le invitamos para que la próxima semana siga en Justicia Electoral a la Semana Online, un programa del Tribunal Electoral del Poder Judicial de la Federación.